Deep in the forests of North America, a creature is said to exist. A creature that people are encountering.
Seriously, look how big it is.
With far too many reports to ignore, there are elements of truth behind these accounts that mankind can no longer
It's
ignore.
created almost this obsession where I need to find out
Could a
more.
breeding population of large, upright, hairy hominids really exist in North America? Or is there something more paranormal at work here? DT Woods. If just one footprint, one wood knock, or one howl is real, then man's understanding of primate evolution would be changed forever. Join Glenn Purcell and the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective as they delve further into the mysteries of Bigfoot and other paranormal phenomena through the eyes of witnesses, investigators, critics, and skeptics. Join us as we look to discover what lurks from behind tall trees.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to From Behind Tall Trees. I'm your host, Gwendolyn Purcell. I just wanted to real quick go over the festival that we had about a week and a half ago. Super successful. We're super happy with it. At the end of the day, we had 110 vendors and approximately 7,000 to 7,500 people. So that's fantastic. Next year is going to be even bigger because we have secured the building. If you were there, you'll see that there was a big building that had a private party in it. We've got that building. So now we can have some vendors inside. So you see it at the bottom of the screen. Registrations are open for all vendors. Just hop on the website, www.centralpabigfoot.com. Go to the store and register. There are 6 different vendor options. So you should be able to find something that works for you. So tonight, we have John Stasko Jr. joining us. He has been a paranormal investigator longer than I've been alive. So he's probably got a ton of things that he could share. 10-time UFO witness, 4-time Bigfoot witness, has investigated 5,000 plus investigations ranging from Bigfoot to ghosts, aliens, UFOs, and everything in between. So without further ado, let's bring John on. Hi, John.
Hey, how you doing, Glenn? Fine, I'm really great. Good to see you again.
Cool. Yeah, it's great to see you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really thrilled to be on here tonight, and hopefully you give me enough time to talk. I can, as you know, Bill Rigby will tell you I can talk for days. So I hope you have duct tape handy. So
well, I do, but it's kind of hard to put it through the screen. So
I hear you. Well, listen, I have a lot to tell you, Bob, but I like to say a few things that happened earlier today, if you wouldn't mind.
I saw your posts today. Yep.
Right. As you know, I'm an admin and so-called group expert on at least 5 groups. Okay. And I was doing this stuff long before Facebook and Facebook groups and all that stuff. And what I've tried to do in my over 56 years of investigations is trying to maintain the integrity of the subject matter, whether it be Bigfoot, UFOs, whatever. Because when I first started, we had a lot of problems with established scientific communities believing what we do. Plus, and on top of, we were labeled with we had a lot of kooks back then going around saying they were taken to Venus, by flying saucers, and people were walking around with things on their heads and beanies and all kinds of stuff. Cults sprung up. So we were like lumped into that as a bunch of knuckleheads. Okay. And so since then, I've really tried in every way I can to keep things focused on the subject matter at hand. Not only that, but to do investigations in a proper way. Okay. There's a lot of groups I see on Facebook, to be frankly, I would never join because of the way they handle the groups and stuff. Today, I had to do something very distasteful. Okay. I'm an administrator on another group that I'm sure you know who it is. Mm-hmm. And one of my members, who's also a good friend of mine, is an astrophysicist named Ian.
Wow.
He's black. He's a good guy. He's really smart. He lives in England. I just talked to him several times today, in fact. He tried. Some guy put a post on there about something, and also Ian said, "Was do you have any proof of this?" The guy called him every name in the book. Okay. He also called him boy.
Oh,
Now, just so you know, I have, personally speaking, I'll put this out there. I have biracial granddaughters and biracial grandkids. So this hit me especially hard because I'm not a racist in any way, shape, or form. Okay. I
right.
don't believe in that stuff. Okay. At all. So I got really incensed about it. I read the post before Facebook took it down, by the way. I also banned the guy immediately from the group. I will do this in any group I'm an admin in. And if anything like this if any other top administrator or any group person owns the group were to condone this material, I would put them out there as well. And I would slam that group very much so on general Facebook posts and all the groups I belong to.
Right.
I believe in equity and fair play. I believe in creating a safe haven and space for people to come out and talk about their experience. Because we have a lot of people that really don't want to come forward about this kind of stuff to
You're
discuss what
absolutely
they've
right.
seen, heard, and it's bad. It's hard enough for them. Now, as an investigator, I go into every investigation open-minded but skeptical. I'm a retired paralegal, so I have to do that.
Right.
I let the information, the facts lead me to a conclusion. Now, as an investigator, the best thing I can say to anybody after I've investigated their case fully, and I believe it's real, is I believe you. That's all the closure I can give somebody.
Right.
Okay. And sometimes that's all they need. Okay. Now, I know that a Bigfoot exists. I've seen him 4 times with multiple witnesses every time, including police officers, you name it. It's been documented everywhere. I've had plaster cast. I have them here at the house. I have a bunch of them. I've also seen UFOs 10 times. Not all that long ago, Dan Benoit and Julie
Oh,
McQuaid, right?
yes.
We went on an investigation to a place near Mingo Park, PA, and we were there for a Bigfoot investigation. We weren't there for what we did see.
Oh,
I
boy.
did find one track that was 16 inches long and about 10 inches wide. Wasn't really good enough to cast because it wasn't deep enough and it had rained and it was kind of melted out a little bit from the rain.
Right. Right.
So we go up and we went up, we set up. I let them 2 go by themselves and set up, and I set up where I was on top of this knob. Now it's a 40-acre piece of property, and it borders around 300 acres around it, farmlands and woods and such. So after about an hour or 2, I didn't see anything else. I mean, I'm sitting there like a log. I don't move when I can sit for days, literally. Okay. At my age, you got to anyhow. Right. So while I'm up here, they decided to come over and join me. When we did, we got to the top of this rise all together. And across the way, maybe an eighth of a mile away, we saw 2 white objects circling each other, sort of like this, like a figure 8. Slowly. Now, there's no airports close to there. There's no houses there. The closest thing to that area would be the Astronomy Observatory, which I'm a member of, by the way, Pittsburgh Astronomy Society.
Right.
So what I did, I had a real powerful spotlight. In fact, it's really, super powerful. So I took my light and I shined it toward them. Julie spoke up, says, "John, you're going to attract them." I said, "Well, isn't that the point?" So,
Right.
right. So once they both stopped and one started coming toward me from the right, and as it was white, I couldn't really discern a shape, just the white. And as it did, there was no sound from it emanating, nothing, no running lights at all, just white light. It went to my right and went about a couple hundred yards away, and it started to come down behind the trees. And when it did, it turned red and landed. Now I couldn't get through the brush because it was too thick, and by then it was around 10:30 at night, so it was really almost impossible to get there. After
Right.
5 minutes, it lifted back up, went back over and joined its companion, where they circled each other another couple of minutes, really slowly, and they took off in different directions very fast. That's the last and the 10th time I've seen UFOs. Okay. Now, I got to tell you this. I didn't see a Bigfoot until about 1991. I'd already been in this for a long time. Now, I primarily got into the paranormal field because of UFOs, because I saw a UFO when I was 5 with my father and others, and several after that. But I got into it for that. But as I delved into the mystery of UFOs and aliens, I used to run across people who swore up and down, and I had no reason to doubt them, that they saw Bigfoot in close proximity to a hovering or landed UFO going into or coming out of a UFO.
Oh, wow.
Well, that really piqued my interest. So I did a little more digging into it. But anyhow, in 1991, I got a call from a place in McMurray. I don't know if I can tell the people's names or not, but I think I'm going to. It's the Horseman family. I just talked to him, the one son today. I haven't talked to him for 30 some years, but anyhow, the two boys and the mother live there. Now it's 12 miles from Pittsburgh, not even. You would think Bigfoot and McMurray? No,
Right.
right. Now, so I go down there. I was with my co-investigator, Devin Ross. Now, Devin, I'm 6'4", as you see me. I'm not short. Devin's even bigger than I am at the time. I just turned 72 last week, so
Well,
I'm
happy
an old.
birthday.
Thank you. Well, I got too many. I'm doing like Jack Minnie did. I'm starting to count backwards now. But but anyhow, so Devin's 6'6.5" and about 660 pounds. He's a big guy. He's a nuclear engineer and he builds and designs reactors for atomic subs. At that time, I worked as a site supervisor for an environmental company, so I was well trained in all environmental fields. Okay, so we go on this case for about a year. Now, the family claimed there was Bigfoot along these tracks across from some fields. So we went down there, and it was on the case for about a year. Okay, at that time, I was a member of Stan Gordon's group, PASU. I was an investigator. So that's how we initially got the call through him. Anyhow, so we get down here, didn't see anything except after a while, I told Devin, go down on these railroad tracks, which is over the hillside, and walk there, and I'll climb a tree. Now we have FM headsets on, so with voice activated from here. So I'm climbing. No, I can't climb trees like that now, but I climbed this tree about 25 feet up, and immediately, almost 5 minutes later, Devin calls me on the headset and says, "John, something throwing big boulder-sized rocks at me, and it's coming your way." So I said, "Okay." So I look, and I had a camera. This is broad daylight. So I heard a rustling down below me, and I look. Now I'm 25 feet up in this tree. I look down. I see two green eyes looking up at me. So what do you think I did? I shimmied down the tree as fast as I possibly could. It was gone that quick.
Oh my
All right,
gosh.
right. Moving ahead. Now that area also supposedly had a lot of ghosts along these railroad tracks. Okay, it's one of they call it the Hell Ghost Road or something like that tracks, but it borders Chartiers Creek and places like that. So there's plenty of water. There's game there and stuff. Now there's condos all over there, so it's all developed. But anyhow, now we move in. Let's move further ahead. About I'd say 8 months after that, 9 months after, it was around November. And I went into the woods. Just so you know, you probably know, I'm not afraid of anything. I've fought cancer, COVID, blood clots. I should be dead, but I'm not. Anyhow, so really nothing frightens me anymore. I mean, I've seen ghosts, the works, everything. So, and I have to know before I die. But anyhow, then I'll really know. But so as I'm walking out of the woods, Devin and others saw two juvenile Bigfoot following me out of the woods, about 30 paces behind, between 5 and 6 feet tall, about 150 to 180 pounds. Now, this was published in Fate magazine, 1994, I believe, by Keith Bastiani, okay, one of the members of PASU. Okay, so that's fact, okay? Now, the very next day, I get a call from Mary Robb Jackson, KDKA News in Pittsburgh. She's a reporter. I think she's retired now. She said, "Mr. Stasko, I understand you're a investigator for Washington, Greene, and Fayette counties." I said, "Yes." I says, "What's up?" Now, I had gone down to about 20 below zero that day with the wind chill, and it snowed really a lot. So she said, "We had a sighting up in Crescent Heights, PA." So she said, "Would you mind if we came down and picked you guys up?" And we went up there to see what's going on. So I said, "Sure." So they came down. When I got up there, there's a church up on top of this hill. Now, I have to tell you a little bit about the background. Primarily, most of the people live in this town are black. And they have I guess it's a Baptist church up on top of the hill that's separated and overlooks the town, which is a small town. Okay. So it's isolated. So we go up there and there's two sets of tracks. One set of tracks was 22 inches long.
Wow.
22 inches long. The second set of tracks was almost 18 inches long. They were parallel, one after, next to each other. Now I have something called a soil compaction device. I can approximate measurement of weight by the depth of the imprint.
Mm-hmm.
The depth of the imprint of the big set of tracks indicated a weight around 1,200 pounds.
Wow.
That's gigantic. At the time, I weighed 240, so it would have almost 10 times my weight. And I mean, that's big. That's really big. That's bigger than a grizzly bear. Anyhow, which is about 800 pounds. Now, the smaller set of tracks indicated a weight on 1 foot of 800 pounds.
Wow.
Now, but here's the kicker. The other foot for the smaller set indicated a weight of about 1,000 pounds. Why do you think that is?
Limping. No.
What's it carrying?
Oh, a baby.
A young one, almost a 200-pound baby. Now, that's plus or minus about 15 pounds.
Right.
Anyhow, so I followed those tracks. Now, me and Mary Robb, now Mary's 5 foot tall. She tried to jump between the tracks. I couldn't do it either. My normal stride is 26 inches heel to toe. A 6-foot man is a 24-inch stride. So I'm bigger than the average guy. Anyhow, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't jump between the tracks. Neither could she. We followed to the edge of the hillside where you can see butt prints where they sat down in the snow overlooking the town. So now I'm looking over for more tracks from that point beyond. No tracks. I'm like, what the heck? Now I know they don't have wings. Where did they go? So I went, wait a minute. So I took a second look at the tracks. But I'm here. You ever hear the Indians, what they used to do?
No.
They backtrack. They step into their footprints backward.
Oh, okay.
All the way into the woods where they came out, where the brush was so thick you couldn't see any tracks. Okay. However, I did find hair samples. I sent the hair samples to our local university. And back then, the DNA wasn't as good as it is now. I mean, it's a lot better now. But it came back in a couple of weeks, unknown hominid. And the unusual thing about the hair samples was they were transparent. They were like a brownish red, but transparent at the same time, not like human hair or animal hair. Okay. So that's that one. Okay. Now, about a week later, after I come back from another investigation, I get a call from the chief of police in California, PA, who's a friend of mine. Now, this is before cell phones. Keep this in mind. Okay.
Right.
Rotary. Remember the old rotary phones? You're not.
Absolutely.
You're a little older than I thought then. But anyhow, so my first wife says, John, when I got home, she says, the chief of police wants you to come up to California High School Hill. I said, okay. So I said, what's going on? He says, he didn't want to talk about it on the phone. So I drove up. Now, the only thing I had on me at that point was a giant light called a Q-beam. It's about that big in diameter, 500,000 candle power. I could light up a hill 2 miles away. And it has a portable power pack. I also carry, at the time, because I used to carry a lot of money, I had a 1 million volt stun gun. Okay. Anyhow, so I go up there. Now, when I got up there, on the right side of the road on this hill were 30 civilians, including some teachers that lived in the area, and 12 police officers from 4 different municipalities, including California, PA. So I walked up to Charlie. I said, what's going on, Charlie? He goes, look up there. Now, there's a high tension tower on that hillside to the left. So I looked up and I saw something, but I couldn't make it out. I said, well, let's go see what it is. So I start walking up over the embankment to walk toward it. And I look back behind me and the police officers aren't following me. I said, you guys coming or what? And they said, we're not going. Look at the size of that effing thing. I said, you guys got guns. They said, we're not going. I said, all right, well, I'm going. So I started walking up. Now, listen to this. Now, this is the first up close and personal time I've actually seen a real Bigfoot like that. I got probably within 30 feet and it started, I could clearly, now I know what I'm looking at, I think. It looked like a gigantic figure leaning against this high tension tower. Now, I know how tall it was afterwards because I measured the height of where it leaned against it. So I have a pretty good idea of the height. So I walk up and I got within 15 feet of it. Before I even got there, I could smell it. It smelled like dead animals, like really rancid smell, leaves, mold, dirt, nasty, nasty. This thing was leaning with its arms crossed. It was so large. I came barely to its waist.
Oh,
barely to its waist. Shoulders wider than my SUV. Okay. And it arms like tree trunks and legs like tree trunks. Now, listen, you and I both have seen pictures of renditions of Bigfoot on various posts. They
Hmm.
got to make them look like they're the Incredible Hulk, all muscle and all that. They don't look like that. They
Mm-mm.
do not look like that. They're covered with hair, except for a few places. This thing had long brown, but was reddish highlight hair between 12 and I'd say 18 inches long, covering its whole body. I couldn't even see its ears. It didn't have a sagittal crest like a gorilla, but it did have slightly pointed head. Okay, massive head like this.
Oh my
Green
God.
eye, green eyes. Now, as you know, Gwen, primates don't have eye shine.
No, they don't.
This thing had eye shine. Now it's so big, it's looking at me and has almost no neck, wide shoulders. I'd say at least 4 feet wide, at least or more. Okay, wide. And it's looking down at me, and it's kind of tilting its head like this, looking side to side, looking at me and looking down. Now, you know what infrasound is. Okay,
Yes.
some of your viewers may not know this. Some animals like tigers and elephants can generate a subsonic sound to paralyze or scare away prey, okay, or anything that might harm them. I felt what I can only say felt like to me now, waves of sadness palpably hitting my chest. But I felt no fear of it, and I felt no animosity coming at me from it as well. Okay.
Right.
I'm sure it didn't fear me at all. And I'm a strong guy. I mean, back then, especially, I mean, I was 240 pounds and in my prime. I'm not pushover now either. But the point is now I walk a couple steps closer. So I got within 12, 13 feet. I shine my light on it. Now, here's the strange part. When I shined that light on this thing, okay, the light wasn't reflected back, which it should have been with that powerful of a light. It seemed to be absorbed into it.
Oh,
Okay. So that really caught me off guard.
right.
Now, I can tell you that pretty much the face was like pretty much from here to here was uncovered, except for some hair here. Okay. I couldn't see the ears, as I said. I couldn't tell the genitalia, but I'm assuming it was a male because of its size. Okay. Uh, its muscles underneath the hair, you could actually see the muscle move underneath the hair. Okay, so I know it was no big giant in a suit. Okay,
Right.
the legs were massive too, and the feet were massive. The tops of the feet were covered with hair as well. Now, the creature also, when it opened its mouth a little bit, it must be an omnivore because I saw not only canines, large canines, I might add, yellowish colored canines, but molars as well. Strong jaw, okay, very strong jaw. The skin itself was like a dark gray in color, okay, but when look, I've used to hunt a lot. I used to hunt a lot of deer, bear. I've killed bear, I've killed deer, you name it. I don't hunt with a gun anymore. I don't do that. I don't believe in that. But when I looked in those eyes, Gwen, it's like me looking in your eyes. I see intelligence.
Right.
This is an intelligent, thinking, sentient creature. It is not an animal. It is not a gorilla. I don't believe it's a descendant of the Gigantopithecus or the Denisovan. I think it's something different, altogether different. Okay. Having seen them 4 times myself with witnesses again, I can tell you these are intelligent creatures. These are intelligent beings. I have some theories, which I'm going to get into in a minute, about where I think they're from and what their origin point is. But I will say this about this. Again, these are creatures that live within urban areas around here. Therefore, they've adapted to their environment. I believe, because I was asked by Mary Robb what I thought about them. These creatures, at least in the northeastern part of this country, seem to be more nomadic, kind of more laid back and less violent. They don't seem to be as territorial. Now, the reason I say that is we have a lot of farmlands around here. I know you've been around through this area. So,
Absolutely.
we have a lot of cattle, sheep, that kind of thing. So, but we have a lot of deer population too, and smaller animals, wild animals. So these creatures know not to hunt or kill a cow or a sheep because why? They know human beings can hunt them. They know we have dogs that could maybe track them. Okay. Now, what's different between, in my opinion, again, based on all my research, I will say that with a few exceptions, the northeastern Bigfoot is not territorial. more urbanized, and can coexist within human habitations, urban habitations. The northwestern Bigfoot in Oregon, Washington, Alaska seem to be much more territorial, much more prone to violence. You know, the Portlock incident,
I
okay?
do.
Okay. And others are up there. People disappear. You've heard of violent attacks and stuff. Also, the southern Bogey Creek monster, the Folk monster, those creatures down there seem to be more territorial. And the reason I say it's because of the environment. There's less people around those areas, more swampy and more woods around where there's not a lot of people. So they seem to be more territorial and they're more prone to defend that territory, okay? Just my opinion. Same thing with down in like the Texas, Arizona area, those places. Now, these creatures have been around a long time. Native Americans have talked about the hairy man as a brother at times and as an adversary at other times, all throughout Native American history. So this is not new. This is not a new phenomenon. I say, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, that these creatures were around and probably crossed the land bridge into North America during the Ice Age. One of the first. We had more than one Ice Age, by the way, but they crossed or were already here. Now, let me say something else. Most accounts of Bigfoot sightings, some take place during the daytime, which is true. But for the most part, it seems during my research that most of them are arboreal. They'll come out mostly in the evenings or night to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
They also have what I call super senses. I think they see in different light spectrums. We already know they have super hearing. They're super strong. Okay. They can hear anything.
Mm-hmm.
When I've taken one of my things I want to talk about tonight, if you don't mind, is this. Is to how to take and to do a proper investigation for this. One of the things you can't do when you go into the woods, if you're looking for a Bigfoot, you can't take a lot of people with you that make noise. You have to be silent. They know you're in the woods before you are hardly in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
What I do, Gwen, I have a bionic ear. You know what that is, right?
Yes.
Okay, I have that. I have night vision glasses. I have night vision goggles. I have laser perimeter alarms. Okay. I have everything you could possibly think. I just spent $3,000 worth of stuff on equipment. I have trail cams and the works. What I do, I go either on a game trail and climb a tree, or I sit beside a tree in my camos or whatever I need to do to camouflage, or a ghillie suit. And I don't wear any deodorant.
Right.
You know, so I'll try to mask my scent with some other animal scent I can buy at a park or a sporting shop to mask it. Okay. Because of that. Now, or I go on right of ways on power lines because they like to walk along the right of ways of power lines. We've had cases where they've done that because it's easy to traverse.
Right.
Now, if you're going to use a trail cam, a lot of people put their trail cam 5 or 6 feet up. Bad mistake. Put it up at 10 feet. And if you have more than one trail cam, if say you're on a power line right away, put them across from each other so they see each other. Okay. Sometimes we've had people put trail cams up. They put a trail cam up here, then something knocks it down, so you don't see what did it. Okay. Yeah. But if you put them across from one another, you're going to see something, right?
Absolutely.
And you got them in a crossfire. That's what I do. I have 4 or 5 trail cams right now. Trail cams I use for that. And I as far as that goes. But my thing is I don't move. I stay very quiet. Now, the other things, I just made a big post on the other group about how to do what things to look for.
Right.
Bigfoot likes water sources. Okay. There's creeks and rivers. In 1947 by California PA, we had a sighting of what they didn't know what to call it at the time, of a creature coming out of the river. Now we have embankments along the river.
Right.
You know, alligators sometimes do what? They build their nest up under the embankments, don't they?
Yep.
Why can't a Bigfoot? You don't see them. Where else? They're perfectly safe there, right? The other thing is this. What I noticed, I found tracks. I used to walk down through the creeks. I wore big rubber boots or waders, and I walked through a creek, and I'm looking on either side. And I've seen tracks that actually came out of the water and stepped up at least 5 feet onto the embankment.
Oh my
so they're
God.
using water. They're using water to mask their steps.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the other thing, so watch for that. The other thing is this. They need food. plentiful food. We know they can run down a deer, they'll break a deer's legs or necks, and that's it, carry it off. Okay. Wherever there's deer and berry bushes, like I said, they're omnivores. Okay. These are things we pretty much know about them. Okay. But when you're an investigator, the main thing is collecting data.
Right.
Now, when I found my tracks, okay, I make sure I take good pictures of them first. I make sure I do use what's called a Nalgene container to put any kind of eDNA in it, okay, environmental DNA in it. But I don't disturb that track yet. But I take a tape measure or something to show size compared to whatever I'm, trying to compare it to. So then you can cast it, okay. But what I would do with the technology we have nowadays, mark that site on your GPS.
Absolutely.
Mark it on a map, okay. And if you're in the woods by yourself, watch what you're doing, but also look around for scat and hair samples. I found hair samples twice. By the way, that 10-foot tall one, when it ran off, by the way, I want to tell you about that. I've seen rabbit and deer go from a standing stop to fast. This thing moved in 30 feet faster than any deer or rabbit I ever saw in my life. It was like a blur. I tried to keep up with it. I couldn't do it. It ran and crashed through the bushes and trees and took off.
Oh my gosh.
I found hair samples of that one too. And guess what? I sent that to the same lab and it came back in about 2 weeks, unknown hominid, same type of hair sample.
Okay.
Now, you know where Route 43 is, right? Between California and Brownsville and those places. The chief of police had another officer with him, and they were driving down 43 on a routine patrol, and they saw one squatting on the side of the road watching cars. Now, that's only a couple hundred yards away from where the 10-foot one tall one was.
Oh my
and
God.
less than 3 miles away from where the other ones were up on that ridge. Okay. Okay. So I believe there's a family of them around there.
Right.
I also investigated a report close to Patsy Hillman Park, which used to be the old Luzerne Park years ago. And the guy that I investigated for was a priest of all things. He said he put out a box of pizza that he had thrown out. It wasn't a whole box. It was just a couple pieces, I guess. He was putting out in his trash. He went back in the house. It was in the middle of the night. And he heard some noise. And he looked out and he saw a family of them rooting through his trash.
Oh my God.
Okay. So, I mean, I've in about a 2.5-week span, I'd have to say that my co-investigator and myself and Paul Johnson, you know who Paul Johnson is.
Yes.
In fact, Paul Johnson was with Devin and I when we did the initial investigate up Crescent Heights, in fact, years ago. And they're both taller. I mean, they're both 6'6", but Devin's real heavy and Paul's real skinny, and I'm like in between. I'm the short guy at 6'4". But anyhow, the thing is that where am I going with this? We had over almost 500 sightings of Bigfoot in a 2.5-week period. I had the Connellsville police call me, and they asked me to come up. There's a stone quarry up on their mountain, and we went up inside a quarry, and we found footprints leading to this inside this quarry, like quarry mine. Okay, so we had tracks. I mean, we were finding stuff everywhere. Okay, state police were calling us, the works. Everybody was calling us. So these creatures are around this area now. I guess right now they're nomadic. Now, what I do about once, maybe twice a week, I go in that area. I'll take my wife most of the time. I like going for drives, and we go and we check things out. And I have all this equipment. I mean, I have everything with me. It's in my SUV at all times. Okay, so there's that. So Bigfoot does exist. Okay, now here's my theory. I know some people may disagree with me. And that's fine, because that's what this forum's all about. Right. Everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Absolutely.
I consider myself, and I don't want to use a catchphrase, but somebody else used the catchphrase, gatekeeper on the group I belong to. Well, okay, if there's such a thing as a gatekeeper, and there are, it's Dr. Meldrum for his collection of footprints and his scientific analysis of them. It's Cliff Baranchak, or Baranchak, John Baranchak, Brackman rather, John Baranchak, and myself. Because I've debunked about 80% of the cases I've been on too.
Right.
I've talked. Listen, there are people that I've actually caught people who have made wooden footprints
Oh my
and
God.
try to pass them off as Bigfoot tracks. I've talked to people who are obviously lying. When you go to some place and I said, where did this happen? They'll take me to this place, this place. Okay. So I know they're lying, they're hoaxing. Okay. We know about the hoaxes and stuff. I
Right.
try to keep it factual. Okay. And I will call somebody out if I think they're full of baloney.
Right.
Okay. I will do that because I have to do that as you do, Glenn. You have to do that.
Absolutely.
I put you in the same category as a gatekeeper. If you hear bullshit, you just got to call it out.
Absolutely.
Because anything that's going to negatively affect this genre
Yes.
is going to hurt the investigations. Okay.
Absolutely.
The established scientific community wants facts. Okay. I think personally that there's some good scientists do believe it, but they don't want to put their reputations on the line until they actually have physical proof.
Absolutely.
Now, what physical proof are they're going to take and do? Okay. We already know they don't want to believe photographs.
No.
They don't want to believe, and well, especially blurry ones. They don't want to believe footprints. DNA is suspect. Okay.
Yep.
Then you got eyewitness supposedly accounts. They don't believe that. If you know the scientific principle, they want repeatable scientific evidence.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, what's our choices then? Okay. Well, unless you can find a dead body of one or capture one, or God forbid, somebody kills one and the government doesn't interfere and take the body away, which I got to tell you about that too. We're not going to have the scientific proof we need. But the
No.
last thing we need, you and I and other people who are in this field, are charlatans and people in it to make money and for entertainment purposes. Let's keep it real. I don't run a podcast. I could. I've been asked to do it. I could write a book. I've been asked to do that. I don't have time.
I feel that.
I'm getting ready to go up on the 28th up to Boru up north and speak to them again for about 2.5 hours.
Oh,
Again,
wow.
I told them to bring duct tape. And my wife will tell you I can talk and talk and talk. Because, I mean, I got a lot of stuff I can tell you about. And I hope I get all the time tonight. And I hope you have questions of me too, because I'll be more than happy to answer them. But
Absolutely.
But I just don't want to talk about Bigfoot. I want to talk about some other things too.
Yeah.
But let's keep it real. I've been to events where I've spoken where, don't get me wrong, I have nothing against vendors.
Right.
I don't have anything against people that want to publish a book. I don't have. That's fine.
Right.
But that's not what it's all about.
No.
What it's about is getting facts.
Mm-hmm.
And it upsets me very much so when we have 500 to 1,000 or more people and they don't listen to the speakers. Only a few show up to listen to the speakers.
That's true.
They're too busy buying trinkets.
Yep.
Okay. That's fine. That's okay. I don't have a problem. But listen to, I know you haven't. I don't charge a penny to go anywhere. I've never charged a penny for any investigation or any speaking engagement, nor will I.
Nope.
I was invited to go down to Virginia next year at Dan Benoit's request.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go up to the next Myths and Monsters up in Somerset area again. Again, I don't want money for this. This is a passion that I have, just like you have that same passion.
Yep.
But I want to keep it real, okay? We've already got too many shows on TV that are for entertainment only, that they find nothing.
And they're never going to find anything because that'll end the show. There'll be nothing more to watch.
Well, they'll move on to the next genre, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Who might be a Loch Ness, who knows? But anyhow, and then you have people that charge a lot of money for speaking engagements. Okay, that's great.
Yes.
But exorbitant fees. I actually asked one guy in particular, he wanted $5,000 to show up. I know more than he does, and I don't charge a penny.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have a syndicated TV show.
Nope.
I'm not lamenting what they do. That's fine.
Right.
But I am focused on answers and facts as you are, and as the people who are watching this tonight.
Yes.
Anyhow, I got to tell you something. My brother worked at a high school up there as a janitor. And he told me one night he was coming back on Route 43. It was late. It was after 11 o'clock because he worked 3 to 11. And he said there was state police, military police, and Army and local police on Route 43, not too far from the California turnoff. And there was a wreck there. As he pulled up in his truck, He knew the one cop, so he got out and asked what's going on. The cop says, well, they won't let us get close. My brother never lies. He's my youngest brother. He's 65 now. He doesn't lie. And I believe everything he said because he's never lied to me. Anyhow, he said he saw a large bipedal creature being covered up and lifted and put on the back of a military truck. The military police and the army were there and shipped it away. They wouldn't even let the police close. The state police formed a cordon around it.
Absolutely.
This is all within the parish. The 2 cars were hit by whatever this creature was, and it knocked the creature down. I don't know if it killed it or whatever. So this is all within this area. Okay. We got a lot of mines around that area too, abandoned mines and such. So there's a lot of places for these creatures to hide. Okay. We know they have young, so they do procreate. So there has to be a breeding population.
Right.
I mean, you have these creatures all over the world, and I think the reason a lot of them adapt, just like, okay, the rabbits around here don't turn white, do they?
No.
They're brown. What about the rabbits up in, say, Alaska? What happens in the wintertime?
They turn white.
Right. Okay. So you got the Yeti over in the Himalayas, supposed to be white or like a lighter color, right? You got the Yeren in China. You got the Yowie down in Australia.
Yep.
Okay. You got the hairy men down in South America. Okay. You got reports of like creatures like that in Europe even as well. Okay. I think what they do, they adapt very well to their environment. They're meant for that. Now, I want to say this too. These creatures have very long arms down below their knees. Now, what does that indicate to you?
They can travel in the trees.
Right. Now, we have reports of them in the trees as well. Okay. So when you're walking through the woods, look up. Not only for them, but for widow makers as well. Okay. You know what a widow maker is. Okay. Tree branches that are broken off come down and kill you. Okay. So yeah. But I think these creatures are not of terrestrial origin. That's my opinion.
Right.
I don't think they're interdimensional.
Right.
I don't think they travel through portals. Okay. Portals might exist, but I don't think that. I think that they're just so adaptive to their environment and so smart. They're the ultimate hide and seek champions. Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. But I know some of my colleagues might say they think they're interdimensional, and that's fine. Okay. But I think they're extraterrestrial in origin, which brings me to this next one. I did an investigation many, many years ago after meeting a man named John Keel. You know who John Keel is?
Yes.
I met him at LaGuardia Airport in New York. And we sat down and talked, and he told me he was getting ready or coming back from a Mothman case in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. So I went down there and I interviewed people. Okay. And about 50% of the people down there believe there's something there, and 50% aren't sure. No one said no. They're not sure. But 50% said yes. So that was after he wrote the book and they brought the movie out, The Mothman Prophecies.
Right.
One of my good friends is Linda Sigmund, who was one of the witnesses of the Mothman. Okay. In fact, she's watching tonight. I told her she wanted to watch this tonight, so I told her to watch on your site. Anyhow, right. Now, last year, my wife and I went down to Point Pleasant, West Virginia for another investigation. I stayed 3 days. Now, my wife is not an investigator, but she's my right-hand navigator and such. Okay. It's my best friend in love. But anyhow, so we went to Point Pleasant, and then we went up to the preserve, the McClintock Preserve. She wouldn't get out of the car. There was nobody there. This is summertime. So I got out, and I have a 40 channel. In fact, I'm going to show you something. If you don't mind, I'll get it.
Oh, go ahead.
Here I am again. Sorry. This is a 40 channel handheld CB. Very powerful. She had one in the car, and I had one on me. Anyhow, so I said, well, I'm going to go. You stay in the car. She rolled the windows up and everything else. Now, in a preserve, you would expect to see animals, right? Especially in the summertime. I didn't see not one bird, not one insect, nothing, not a deer, nothing. Quiet like the dead. So there's all these bunkers up there, and I walked in every one of the bunkers. No problem. I walked in with my powerful spotlight because the bunkers are round on the inside.
Right.
Okay, they're real tall and round, and there was graffiti on the walls and things of this nature. But my spotlight worked inside on every one of them, and my CB. I'm in constant contact with my wife because she was worried about me. She shouldn't because I can handle myself anyhow. But I went into the one bunker. The minute I stepped inside, my handheld CB, powerful as it is, quit working, and my light shut off. Don't know why. I stepped outside and they started right back up again. She got scared. She thought something happened to me. That's the only time. While we were there, another man came up in a truck. He was looking for his dog, which disappeared. He couldn't find it anywhere. He said it never ran away and stayed away like it did. There's a swamp up there too. Have you been there?
I have not been there at all.
There's this big swamp up there, and it's got all kind. It was green, covered in green. I mean, slime and stuff, but quiet. The water didn't ripple. There was not a frog. I didn't see anything. Okay, nothing. We went around helping a man look for his dog, couldn't find it. But anyhow, I had an eerie feeling that something was there. Okay, so I did a Mothman. That's the second Mothman investigation. But in my opinion, again, I don't believe that Mothman is a supernatural being. And the reason I say that is there was a show on the Travel Channel a while back where this couple went down there and they said that something followed them home and all this and stuff. I call shenanigans. I call paranoia. I told you I call people out. Anyhow, what I do now, according to Linda, she saw a UFO. And shortly thereafter, she saw the Mothman. I think those things, I think they're both related. I think what it is, I think it's an extraterrestrial creature. And I'll tell you why. You have to have a certain length of wing to lift a certain amount of weight on this planet. Got it? Because of the gravitational force.
Right.
Now, birds have hollow bones. Therefore, they can fly.
Right.
If they had solid bones like we did, they couldn't fly with the short wings they got.
Right.
Okay. This creature is supposed to be between 8 and 9 feet tall, but only had 10 to 12-foot wings. That way, you couldn't do it.
No.
But now there was a case in Mexico of some people down there got a photograph of some, like they call it a witch, but it wasn't a witch. Something going across the sky.
I've
remember
seen
that?
Yes, I do.
Here's what I hypothesize. I think that this creature had some type of anti-gravity device on it, which enabled to give it lift, but it needed wings for propulsion. Got it? So therefore, the anti-gravity nullified its weight, but it had needed wings to move because they said it went about 100 miles an hour, chased the car. I believe her. She's totally credible. Other people have seen it, totally credible. Do I think it had something to do with the Silver Bridge collapse? My opinion, probably not. I think it was just an old bridge that let loose. Unfortunate, 46 people die.
Right.
What I'm getting at with all this, Gwen, is that, you have the Jersey Devil, you have the Bigfoot, of course, you have Mothman, you have all these other creatures stuff. Now, there are those of us in the field that believe that this planet is like a zoo, in a way.
Yes.
And sometimes other civilizations bring these creatures here and just drop them off and be done with it. Okay, that's what I think. It's just my opinion. I don't believe that Bigfoot's coming through portals. I don't believe it's interdimensional. Okay, I don't think it has that capacity. What I do believe, it's a sentient, intelligent, self-aware being.
Right.
I think to shoot one and kill one would be murder.
I agree.
One of the things I want to do is hopefully before I die, is I can find some way to get this creature protected to the Endangered Species Act. Because you got people out there hunting with guns and trying to kill. There's a bounty. What was it, in Oklahoma? There was a bounty or something on it for $1 million.
Still stands, by the way.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing. I remember as a kid, I went hunting for a deer and I was wearing blaze orange. It had snowed out. I was 16 years old and I'm hunting and I'm down in the valley between two sets of power lines. Clearly, you can see I'm a human being and somebody was shooting at me twice. Now, wow. And this is why when people go, I tell people, look, if you're going to go in the woods, okay, you want to take protection, that's fine. But if you're going to have a gun on you, be sure what you're shooting at before you shoot it.
Absolutely.
And God forbid you shoot and wound a Bigfoot and make it angry. Because you're not going to outrun it.
No.
And you ain't going to outfight it.
No.
You know what's going to happen to you? You're going to disappear in pieces. Okay.
Yep.
And to be honest with you, I don't think our normal size guns or anything like that would really slow it down much.
No,
I
I
really
think you're
don't.
just going to make it mad.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I saw at 10 feet, it was about 10 feet because I measured against where it leaned against the tower. I don't, short of I don't know, maybe a bazooka, I don't think you could have brought it down. You know,
Oh
and the
my.
police were afraid. And they're all carrying guns and they had rifles in the car, shotguns in the car. They're afraid. So here I am like an idiot. But anyhow, my wife says I'm going to end up dead. I'm like, at least I'll know. Okay. So
You're going to die doing what you love, right, John?
that's right. Now, any new investigator out there, I suggest you do this. Write down everything you see. Take a camera and a camcorder with you. If you're going to go in the woods by yourself, I do, but I'm experienced at this. Take somebody with you. And if you don't, let people know when to expect you out.
Yes.
Because even if you don't run into a Bigfoot or another animal that can harm you, you might fall and break a leg or get hurt so bad you can't get out and you might die hypothermia or starvation or whatever. Okay? Let people know. Use your head. I have a helmet right here that I walk into the woods with. If I'm going to go in the woods at night, I wear a helmet on my head because of those widow makers.
Oh yeah.
It may not keep me from getting injured, but at least might keep me from getting my skull crushed.
Yes.
Okay, because of the wind. The other thing I want to say this too, Gwen, is that there's some shows on TV that everything they hear or see in the woods is Bigfoot related.
Yes.
Look, trees rub against each other. They knock
Yes,
against each other. Okay, trees will fall down and it looks like a pattern. Well, we're conditioned with our minds for pareidoia. You can people look at clouds. I've seen elephants in clouds and cars and everything else in clouds because that's the way our minds are geared to see patterns. Okay, so not everything is Bigfoot. I know there's this one show I get a kick out of. I mean, right away, this one guy will say, it's Bigfoot. It's Bigfoot. You know what I'm talking about. I'm not. Look, okay, fine. You got a show on TV. That's fine. Where's your results? You don't have any results in your woods with all this equipment.
Right.
And the one person that's with him, who's a real scientist, is really skeptical. And I don't blame her. Okay. But anyhow, that's another story.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, any questions about Bigfoot?
Well, we do have one here from Scott. He says, why isn't every time a Bigfoot is killed by a hunter, the military are called in?
I see it. Yeah,
the government shuts it down. I simply think because they don't believe that we can handle the truth.
Well, I think so too, because now look, if it was just a mere animal, right?
Right.
And somebody shot an animal, okay, it'd be news, but it wouldn't be like earth-shaking news. It would be like Bigfoot killed. Okay, it's an animal. Okay, it's a new species we never knew. Okay, it'll be sensational for a while, then it'll die down, and all these other groups that hunted will be, be done. They'll be scientifically taken apart and everything else. But because I believe it's extraterrestrial in origin, because it's been seen by people coming in and out of UFOs or in close proximity to it, there's a connection. The government probably knows this, okay? Yeah. Just like I told you about my brother's sighting on of all things, on Route 43, okay? So I believe the government knows. There was also some cases when they had those forest fires out west where supposedly a Bigfoot was burnt and injured and it was taken away. What happened to it? What happened to it? Government got it.
The government did get it. Yep.
All right. So yeah, I do believe that, and they might have some in captivity for all I know. Okay. And I really kind of believe that. Now, I mean, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but when you get into this realm of the unknown, the paranormal is the new normal, to quote my friend Bill Rigby. Okay.
I was like, I've heard that before.
Yeah, that's my buddy. You know, I mean, I got to check up on it. He's an old fart too, like I am. But anyhow, I like him. I mean, he's one of my best. But anyhow, the thing is that I do believe the government's aware of what's going on. Okay. I mean, they have the technology that we don't have or have access to. Okay. Absolutely. And they have the resources to do that. Okay. Now, I want to move on to something else. UFOs. My first sighting was when I was 5 years old with my father, who was the chief of police at the time. It was an object about 100 feet in diameter. It was white. It was like a fluorescent type light. Okay. That got my interest at 5. But my dad was really kind of weird because my dad was really a stickler for the law and investigations. He taught me a lot of stuff with the police work. I used to help him later on and what to look for. And he looked at me that night and he said, Johnny, he says, don't worry about that. It's nothing. That's kind of strange because my dad would have, I don't know why he wouldn't have checked it out. Anyhow, let's move along. So that summer, later on, I was in 10th grade. I'm saying I'm moving way far ahead. In 10th grade, a bunch of us used to play on a place called the Slade Dump, which is where now the 84 Lumber is between California and Cole Center. And we were up there playing baseball or softball. I can't remember which one, but it's about 20 of us. Broad daylight, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And it crossed, I'm up to bat. And my buddy said, look at that, Johnny. Now, my hobby is astronomy, just so you know, my main hobby. Anyhow, I have a lot of it. That's my main. Right, I love it. I got 4 telescopes and all kind of binoculars. Anyhow, all kinds of stuff. Anyhow, so I looked and there was an object paralleling the hill across Knoll, PA, like this. And everybody goes, look at the meteor. And it was white with orange and red stripes coming off the back. But listen to this, it made a right angle turn. And this meteors don't make right angle turns.
Oh, they don't.
They don't make. So I reported that to the Brownsville Telegraph, and they put a little blurb in there, young scientist Stasko. Well, around that time, other people had seen it around. We had a auxiliary power plant up there, and they were seeing it hovering over that. So again, that's another. But here's the capper. All I ever wanted from one Christmas when I was that sophomore, and we were on Christmas break. I'll never forget. I was a little guy. I was about 130 pounds soaking wet and about 5'6" or 5'8", maybe at the most. Anyhow, I grew after that. I grew some, in other words. But anyhow, I went out one night. My dad bought me walkie-talkies, real powerful, in fact. So I'm talking to my friend Jack, who lives in Long Branch, PA, and I'm facing the hillside. Now, the hillside's about 700, 800 feet tall. And on top of that hillside is this big barn. It's a huge barn. So this is what gave me an idea of the scale of what I saw. Now, I'm facing this hillside, just signed off with my friend Jack, and I ducked and looked up. This thing came from behind me and stopped dead over top me and over top of the hill above this barn, shaped like this. Now watch this. It was triangular, but it had another triangle on the back, and it stopped above me, and it was huge. I'm going to tell you what I estimated its size. 500 feet wide, by 800 feet long, like a battleship. Huge, not a sound. Now, here's the capper. I saw all these things hanging down underneath of it. And it was like a fluorescent type light. It was white. And it just hovered over me like that. And I don't know why I ducked. I guess I felt it coming or something. But when it did, it stopped and it ejected. Looked like a big teardrop about 150 feet long out its back end. And it swung like a pendulum into the hillside. Now, it hit the hillside. And then the big object flew off to the north. Anyhow, so I didn't know what to think. So I came in the house. Now, my dad worked till 11 o'clock that night. And I walked in the house white as a ghost. And my mom says, you're staying up till your dad comes home. So dad came home and I told him what I'd seen, and my mom and my brother Frank. I didn't tell another living soul about this. So I go back to school. About 2 weeks after I got back to school, my principal, Strickler Pollock, in California High School, says, Johnny, there's 2 men that want to see you, and they're in the front. They're in your homeroom classroom up in the front of the building, which is by the parking lot. Now, at that time, when we didn't have all these checks and balances like they do nowadays, we have to check in through security and all that. They just came into school and they said, well, they want to talk to somebody. And we had a lot of recruiters coming from colleges, which I did go to later on. So I go to the classroom and I'm in the front seat, the first seat in the front of the classroom. And there's 2 men in there dressed in black suits, white shirts, black ties, black fedoras, black shiny shoes and slacks, and sunglasses. They're both about 5'8" tall to 5'9" tall, pale complected, very pale. I'm back to school. Okay. So I'm thinking they're going to ask me what college I go to. I thought they were kind of weird looking. One would start talking to me and the other one would finish his sentence. It's like they were the same person. And what they said to me was, they asked me what I saw about that UFO. Caught me completely off guard. Now, at the time I was scared. I didn't know what to think. Before I could say anything, they said, you say anything to anybody about this, we can put you in jail for the rest of your life and hold you incommunicado. I didn't even know what the word meant at the time.
Right.
The next thing they said, we can put your parents in jail or put you all to death if we want.
Oh,
now I'm really scared now. So about that time, my high school homeroom teacher Pete Petroff was his name. He was a big guy. He's our football coach too. Also my homeroom teacher. He was like 6'5" and about 400 pounds. He come walking by the room and the door was open. So he saw me in there and I'm looking all flustered and scared. And he walked and said, "What's wrong, Johnny?" I said, "These guys are threatening my life." He says, "What?" He walked up to him and he towered over him. He says, "What are you threatening this boy for?" And they looked at each other without a word, non-verbally, and walked past him and started walking out to the front of the school. Pete told me to get behind him, which I did, of course, because he's big and I'm just a little guy.
Yeah.
And we followed him out to the front of school. They went out their front doors, excuse me, and got in a Lincoln Continental black with Air Force plates on the back of it and zipped out of there like their tails were on fire. My first and only time with the Men in Black. First and only time.
Wow.
Right. And even my principal asked me why I was so scared. They called my dad. My dad came up and he got me out of school stuff because I was really shook up. And I told him what happened. My father looked high and low to find out where these men came from and couldn't do it. Well, let me go on. Let me digress. So I get a call from the Uniontown Police. And Uniontown Police says there's a UFO sighting over a place called Census Technologies, which is a cryogenics plant at the bottom of Summit Mountain. So we go up and we went up there. Me and Devin went up there. It's a big guy I was with. He's my co-investigator. And we went there and we talked to the one guy up there, and he told me he saw a green orb hovering over the plant, pretty good size, 30, 40 feet in diameter. And he gave us the kind of basics, what time of night, et cetera, et cetera. So Devin and I made our minds up. We were going to go up on Summit Mountain. Okay, now this is wintertime. In my Jeep, I have a Jeep CJ at the time. I went everywhere. I had a winch and everything on it, so I didn't get stuck nowhere. Now, so we decided we're going to go up on the top of the Summit Mountain by the Jamonville Cross. You know where that's at?
Yes.
Okay. So we took telescopes and we took our gear to go up there. And there's some microwave towers. We didn't want to get too close to them. We didn't want to get fried, but we were on the left-hand side of them. And so we set up our equipment to look down over the mountain into where Census Technologies was to see if we saw anything. Now, keep in mind, this is the Chestnut Ridge area, Pennsylvania's Twilight Zone. UFOs, Bigfoot, everything's been seen up there. So we're up there. Now, as we're going, first of all, I'm getting ahead of myself. As we pulled in, I had snowed, okay? So we pull in to where the church camp is, and there's nobody at the church camp this time. That's for summertime.
Right.
So as we come up, there's a army truck sitting there. It's a pickup truck with the camo and painted in camo color sitting there to the right with its lights off. Two men in camo and army, looked like army gear, clothes on, sitting there, right, not moving. And I'm thinking to myself, I said, "What the heck's going on with those guys, Devin?" He said, "I don't know." Well, I got a bad feeling about this. So we drove down the road a little bit around the turn. And I said, "Devin, I'm going to pull off into the woods for a little because why?" I said, "I got a bad feeling." So I did. I pulled off. And when I did, about 2 minutes later, here comes this truck with its lights off coming down the road behind us, past us. Okay. Now that really spooked us, but we were determined to set up our stuff.
Right.
So we waited about 10 minutes and we went up and we set up. But maybe 20 minutes later, now I had that powerful Q beam I told you about, the portable power pack.
Right.
Now there's no moon out, nothing. It's dark. It's like midnight at this point, and it stopped snowing. So I hear a helicopter. I can't see the helicopter, but I can hear it. So I'm flashing my light around in the sky, and I can catch the helicopter. It's black. It's a Huey with its side doors open, running with no running lights on. Okay, flying at treetop level.
Oh,
I
geez.
flashed my light down because I saw some vehicles. There is looked like a Lincoln Continental, followed by two Humvees, two Army trucks, like the big deuce and a half Army trucks, all wearing with their lights off along that ridge. No lights. So they're running on infrared or something, or night vision. That really spooked us at this point. So we left. We decided to go back the other way. Now, everybody says there's no military base up on that mountain. I got news for you. There's something up here, and I'll tell you why. Remember I said it snowed?
Yeah.
We went down and we followed those tracks back to where those vehicles came from, and we followed it to where there's a fence. Behind this fence, and on either side, covered by trees, was an entranceway, like a triangle with a door that goes down to the ground. And the trucks came up out of there. It's still there.
Oh
Okay.
my gosh.
Still there. Right. So we skedaddled out of there. So we made our minds up. We were going to go, and we went to talk. There's a military base up, a reserve base up there outside of Uniontown. You know what I'm
Right.
talking about?
Yeah.
So we called, and we asked if we could talk to the commander or somebody up there, and we told them who we were. And everything was good. We got admitted to the facility and all that. And we got taken, and we saw, I think he was a lieutenant colonel. He wasn't a full bird colonel. He's a lieutenant colonel. We go in there and stuff, and we were all joking and laughing. Everything was fine. So he says, paranormal investigators. I said, yeah. I said, we're here to look about UFOs and stuff. He goes, oh, yeah, there's no such thing and all this stuff. I said, let me ask you a question, Colonel. He goes, what's that? I said, where do you keep your black helicopters? The minute I said that, his whole demeanor changed. He looked at us. There was a sergeant there. It was an military. I think he was wearing a blue shirt, but it was I think that's Air Force.
Right.
And he was a sergeant. He said to the sergeant, escort these two gentlemen off the base.
Okay. Oh, you hit a nerve.
I certainly did, but that's not the best part. Listen to this. So I go back. Now we move ahead, and we're in the summertime now, early summer. My wife took my youngest two kids out to visit her mother out in the country, and I stayed home with my son, John Jr., and I'm in the house doing dishes because I don't want to get my wife ticked off, so I decide to do some dishes. So I'm in the house, and I hear this. Now, I live close to the railroad tracks at the time, and I'm used to hearing trains going by and stuff.
Right.
And I felt the house start to shake, but a lot more than normal. So I said to my son, John, who was about 6 or 7 at the time, I said, John, go outside and see what that is. He goes outside, he comes running back, and Daddy, there's a helicopter over our house. I went, what? I ran outside real quick. I didn't think to grab a camera. I ran outside, and above my tree in my backyard is a black helicopter with the side door open and a guy filming with a helmet on, filming my house. I told John, run in the house, get me my camera. He ran in, and by the time he came back out, that helicopter took off and veered off. Okay. Later on, about a week later, in fact, I'm up on the ridge with Devin. I got to tell you about this ridge too. You got to come down here and check this out.
I do need to come down there.
I already showed Dan Benoit and Julian and Ron Howes this. You'll see what I'm talking about. I showed him everything. Anyhow, this gets better. I know this sounds crazy, and there's going to be people say, yeah, you're full. You know what? I really don't care. I'm 72. Say what you want. I don't care.
Right.
Okay. That's what this is all about. Share what you think, it's fine. Okay. Anyhow, but you're welcome to come with me at any time, anybody, as long as you don't do dumb stuff or shoot me in a process. Anyhow, so about a week or so later, my wife, I come down from the investigation up there with Devin, and my wife says, she was all shook up. I said, what's going on? She said, there was a helicopter over top of our house with its lights off. The mayor of the town saw it as well. She couldn't tell if it was black or what it was, but she saw the helicopter clearly right over the top of our house. Why? Okay. After that, now this is before cell phones. So Devin and I would talk on regular phones and stuff. And you remember the old, you're probably too young to remember party lines.
No, I do.
Do you? Wow.
Yes, I do.
Damn, woman. But anyhow.
I'm going to be 51.
Oh, you're still burping Similac. But anyhow. But anyhow, so we started hearing strange noises on our phone, and we got a little paranoid that maybe somebody's listening in. So we devised a code to talk to each other and to meet up. Right. Anyhow, so that went on for a while. Our mail was missing, and all kinds of stuff was happening. Well, let me move ahead. So May 30th, 1990, I have the pictures to prove what I'm about to say. If anybody wants to see them, they're more than welcome to see them. I will not sell them. They're unretouched, blown up pictures of this. I always carry a camera with me. Always. I also am an astronomy buff. I know what I'm looking at in the sky. Okay. There's no doubt I know what I'm looking at. May 30th, 1990 was a clear night. I was taking my then wife, who was pregnant with our third child, and my two other kids, Heather and John, and showing them the stars along California Ridge Road, which is 4.5 miles long. We got to the top of this rise, which is the highest point up there, and I'm showing them the constellations. And my wife says, John, we know what those are. What's that behind us? Now my Jeep had off-road lights on it. Keep this in mind. I had 13 KC off-road lights on my Jeep because I used to go off-road a lot and have a lot of fun like a crazy person. I don't do that anymore. A to B is what I want. But anyhow, so I look behind us and there's these lights behind some trees about 300 feet away, but down. Okay. My first thought's what? It's another off-road vehicle like my Jeep because there's kids up there who have those. Okay.
Right.
But then it started doing this behind the trees.
Oh.
So the wind's blowing from my back that direction. So my next thought's what? It's a helicopter.
Yes.
I'm trying to make logical sense of this. Now I step out of the Jeep with my camera and I start walking toward it. Now the lights through the trees, mind you, are so bright I can't look directly at it. Through the trees, mind you, 300 feet away, brighter than any landing lights I've ever seen in my life on a jet or anything. Brighter than my Q beam. Anyhow, it clears the trees, and as it did, the lights, right, boom. I can't see what's making the lights, but there's not a sound the whole time. No wind, nothing at that point. It starts coming toward me really slow like this. I start walking toward it. Now, I'm on a high point of the ridge, so I had to clear up to come to my level. As I did, I got 75 feet away. Now, I know the exact distance because I measured it the next day with my co-investigator.
Right.
Okay. So as I'm walking toward it, I'm doing this because I can't see it. I get the camera in this hand right here, the left hand, and I'm doing this trying to shield my face from the light. The only thing I had on was this baseball cap. I always wear a baseball cap. This is my Sasquatch baseball cap. And a regular baseball cap, a t-shirt, and my jeans. Okay. Now, this is going to get real serious real quick here because this almost ended up killing me.
Oh, my gosh.
As it got closer and closer, my wife and kids are screaming in terror. I apologized profusely after this to my wife because they were terrified. And she's pregnant with our third child, Stephen. Anyhow, as it got closer and closer and closer, it's blinding me. So finally it got within maybe 30, 35 feet away, and I can't look directly at it. So I just raised my camera and I hit the flash. And when I did, the lights went off. And when it did, I saw a hemispherical dish about approximately 50 feet in diameter with 3 windows in it, and landing gear that was retracting. Now, it's hard for me to describe this, but imagine a plate, okay? And on the edges of the plate, landing gear going up to the edges of the plate like this inside.
Okay.
4 of them. That's what I saw. Now at this point, it's almost directly over top me. I can clearly see it. It's orange at this point. Now, like I said, I have 7 pictures of this thing. I snapped them off, rapid fire. When it did, now it's about 20 feet above me or so, and it tilted down like this. And when it did, there's 3 windows in this thing. There was 2 small ones on the outer side and 1 bigger one in the middle. The bigger one in the middle, I would say, was 4 feet across, but it wasn't round. And it was more oblong, as were the 2 smaller ones. In those windows, as God is my judge, I saw 4 beings. 3 the exact same size, gray, black eyes, thin, huge heads, okay, looking down at me. But in the middle window with the other small one, was a taller one, lighter in color, looking down at me. What do you think I did?
Hopefully snap the photo.
I did.
Oh my God.
I got the film too, by the way. Okay. Anybody want, I can do it for me. That's no problem. No problem with it. Here's what I did. I waved, and here's what they did in unison. 4 fingers, longer than mine, but they're smaller than me, and they went like this. That's it. And they tilted back up all the time with no sound, tilted back up, and blink of an eye, 300 feet away, no sound. No air movement either, nothing. So I ran back. Now they're 300 feet away over these trees, and it's moving in like a jerky pattern like this. They weren't going smooth. It was jerking. It's orange at the time. I ran back to the Jeep, and my wife and kids were screaming in terror.
Oh,
I'm trying to keep up with this thing. The ridge is real windy. If you come down here, I'll take you up here and show you. But anyhow, so it's so windy. I'm going 60 mile an hour to keep up with this thing. It's probably going 25 mile an hour or so through the air. Okay. I came down around this turn and it disappeared over a hillside. Now what I forgot to tell you is I was bathed in orange light. Heat, a lot of heat on me. Okay. Let's tell you what happened about that. So I'm feeling real hot. My wife says, your skin's starting to peel and stuff. So I said, look, I'm taking you down to my brother's house. Now, my brother worked for the Washington County Redevelopment. He's my younger brother. I have 3 brothers and a sister younger than me. So I took him down there. I told him what happened. He says, well, let's go. So we got in his, he had a Chevy Silverado. He has, remember those big camcorders? Not the little one. I got a little one now, like it's great.
Yeah.
But it was like this. He
Yeah.
had 3 fully charged power packs for this thing. He put one in to go. We're in there. We fly back up. We don't see one UFO. We see 3.
Oh my
One
God.
up here, one down here, and one here in a triangle formation. He starts filming it. 5 seconds of film, the battery dies. Slaps another battery in. 3 seconds of film, battery dies. He puts the 3rd battery in. It dies immediately, and the lights go out on the SUV or the Blazer. Then the one at the top goes straight up, and the other 2 go left to right. Now, at that point, I'm feeling a lot of heat. Ralph looked at me. That's his name. He says, "Oh, we got to get you to the hospital." So there used to be a hospital in Brownsville. I don't know if it's still there now. Brownsville Hospital, General Hospital. He says, "We're going to get you to the hospital. Your skin's peeling off. My hair's falling out. Anything was exposed, I'm burnt." Okay. So he says, "What are you going to tell these people? You can't tell them you got zapped by a flying saucer." I says, "I'll just tell them I fell asleep under an ultraviolet lamp." He said, "They're not going to believe that." I said, well, what do you want me to do? But back then you don't want to, you look like an idiot or a liar or a nutcase if you tell people this stuff. But
Oh my
that's why
gosh,
I'm
yeah.
so strict about. That's why I'm strict about this kind of stuff now. What I told you about earlier. So they take me to the hospital. I got to wait to see the doctor in the emergency room. Finally, they take me back there, and my brother's with me. And the doctor looks at me and says, "What happened, Mr. Stasko?" I says, "I fell asleep under an ultraviolet lamp." He went like this, cocked his head, says, "You're going to stick with that story?" I said, "Yeah." So they took care of me. I had 3rd-degree burns on me. My hair was falling out and everything else like this on the sides. My ears were burnt, down here burnt. Anything was exposed. I developed cancer.
Of course you did.
I fought cancer for 8.5 years. Okay. I was on chemo for 6.5. It destroyed my hip. It destroyed my knee and my teeth. These are false. I went to Hillman Cancer Center here in Washington. I saw Dr. Doherty up here to get treatment. They gave me 56 doses of radiation. No one's ever lived that got that many. 35 to 38 is the limit. That was during COVID. He himself, though, is a UFO witness. He believed me. He says, "I was exposed to some type of ionizing radiation. It almost killed me. I was almost in stage 4. Okay. And I've had surgery since. I had to get a hip replaced. I had to get false teeth, and I had to get my knee replaced here in March 12th, which I'm still dealing with. Okay.
Right.
I had to have a 2nd surgery done up in Heritage Valley up in Crafton so I could bend my knee more. Okay. I still limp, but no, I can get around. I do what I got to do. Okay.
Right. Right.
So these things are real. Okay. Now let me tell you. After that, I got a hold of Devin. We went up the next day, and I told you he's a radiation expert as well. We went up, and where that was behind the trees, and we went down there and we found a circle on the ground about 50 feet in diameter. But we had Geiger counters with us. When he stuck the Geiger counter into that circle, it went off the scale.
Oh my God.
So we backed out. And we watched the Geiger counter, and finally, after a while, it started dropping down to more normal levels. There's always background radiation.
Absolutely.
The imprint on the ground was 50 feet in diameter, which is really strange. 50 feet exactly. Why 50 feet? Not 51 feet or 50 feet and a half inch or 49 feet, but exactly 50 feet. That sounds, anyhow, that's kind of strange. And I'll tell you why. If I were an alien craft or an alien and I'm building a craft, it wouldn't be exactly this or that. It might be 52 feet. It might be 57 feet, but why 50 feet?
Right.
Our foot is 12 inches, right? So 50 feet. Anyhow, the plants up there were melted around the edge. Now I took Dan up there, and I took Ron House and Julie up there to show them. I got, in fact, I can send you the video we took that day when I went up there. But anyhow, so we decided, Devin and I, to take, and we went back to Pashu, and we told Stan about this, Stan Gordon, and we had other people wanted to come up with us. So we took about 13 people, including ourselves, up. And there's a church up there called, I showed Julie and them all this church. It's a very unique church, and the graveyard combined. The graveyard's all around an open air church. It goes back to the 1700s or so. And there's a bell tower outside too. I've never seen anybody there, but one time there was a bunch of people dressed in black performing some kind of ceremony there. Now, in the back of that cemetery, I know it was not quite kosher to do this, but we decided because it's got a good viewpoint to set up equipment to see if we can see anything coming. Okay. So I went with a woman named Evelyn Sherman, who's a reporter at the time. She worked also for Channel 2, I believe. And we got in my Jeep and we rode along that ridge. As we're coming back, we had walkie-talkies. She saw a UFO identical to the one I saw hovering over a barn. So we tried calling back. Couldn't get a hold of anybody. By the time we got back, it was gone. Now, listen to this. This ridge is really weird. There's all kinds of stuff. There was a murder up there of a young boy burned alive, raped and burned alive in a burn barrel, never solved. We've had the Bigfoot sightings up there. Close to Crescent Heights is right across the little valley right there. So all kinds of stuff. The UFO I told you about. Anyhow, so while we're in the cemetery, there was one cemetery grave in the back. And it was in unhallowed ground. Now, people that commit suicide are generally buried in unhallowed ground. Okay. Right. So the one guy was with us, a police officer from North Versailles. And he was a big guy, tall as me, but heavier. And his wife was with me. She was a psychic. And he says, John, so what's the story with that guy, that grave all the way by itself in the back? Now, next to this grave was a long homemade wooden bench out of a tree trunk with two smaller tree trunks to sit it on. They weighed about 150 pounds. So we had a camcorder set up there and stuff to look, so keep this in mind, and tape recorders running. So I told him the story. The boy had hung himself. He was 16. Oh. His father built a bench to sit there by his son's grave. He's dead now too. He's buried next to his son. I was just up there last week, in fact. Anyhow, so this police officer shouldn't have said this. He says, I wonder if that boy's feet are touching the ground wherever he's at. When he did, that log lifted up. It wasn't nailed in. It lifted up, come over and dropped at his feet. Got it on film.
Oh my gosh.
Right. Evelyn called me. She was taping it. And when she got home later that night, she called me. She was all upset. She says, John, I took the tape home, and when I got in the house, my dishes started shaking and everything else. I don't know what to do. How can I get rid of this? I said, do you have holy water in the house? She goes, yes. I says, you take it outside, dig a hole, put it in the hole, set it on fire, pour holy water on it. And it stopped it. By the way, I clear houses, by the way, too. I've done that too for ghosts and things like that. That's a whole nother. If you give me enough time, I'll talk all night. But anyhow, but this is all along this ridge. But anyhow, Devin and I decided we're going to start going up there. Now, when I was 5 years old, Gwen, I ended up with a mark on my left ankle, which, you know what a scoop mark is? You ever hear that term?
Mm-hmm.
I got a scoop mark on my left inside of my ankle. I got another one on my right, identical, right here, right there. Anyhow, Devin and I are up there one night. It was around almost midnight. He lived in West Mifflin, so he'd meet me and then we'd come up on a ridge and stuff. Anyhow, so I don't like mustard. Keep this in mind. Oh, I do now. My wife makes me. But anyhow, we're sitting up here by this church. We had a good viewpoint of the valley, looking for UFOs or whatever. Now, there was trees across the road at the time in a field, which we couldn't see what was in the field. But where we were looking was another direction ahead of us. So Devin says, John, do you want a sandwich? I said, what's on it? He goes, mustard. I said, well, yeah, I'll put it on the dash. Now, it was fresh sandwich in a bag. I set it on the dash of my Jeep. Devin says, look over there. We see three orbs, white orbs in trees about 200, 300 feet away, hovering over some trees. That's the last thing we remember. 2 hours later, we wake up disoriented. We didn't know what happened. We were so disoriented and stuff. I didn't know. I mean, we were really messed up. We didn't know. I mean, we had missing time. So we went back to the meeting on Wednesday with Stan's house, and I was sitting next to Evelyn, and they were actually showing scoop marks on TV of abductees. And Evelyn saw my wrist, and she said, John, you have one just like that. So I didn't even notice. Right. So Stan set up a hypno-regressionist to see me up at Evelyn's house up in, I believe it was not Sewickley, up that, anyhow, she lives up that way somewhere. Nice house. I never had a panic attack in my life, but I had a panic attack that day. I couldn't do it. So they had to reschedule. And my wife was with me. So we go back up again, and Devin's there. Now, Devin and I weren't allowed to talk to each other for 2 weeks, so we went cross-contaminate each other with what we knew. Devin went in first and had his regression done. Then it was my turn. It took him an hour to get me under. And when it did, what I told the female hypnoregressionist scared her so badly, she said she'd never do it again.
Oh,
I'll get to that in a minute. So then they set up another hypnoregressionist, a guy named William Duffy from McMurray, PA, who's a retired City of Pittsburgh police officer for 30 years. He does hypnoregression. So my wife and my sister-in-law and I went up. It took him an hour to get me under. I have a very strong will. When he got me under, he tested me to make sure that I wasn't faking or whatever. So they made me make my arm like a steel pole, and he tried to bend it, couldn't move it. Anyhow, when I got done after 2 hours of being under hypnoregression, he says he's a real deal. Because what I told him, they taped it. I have the tape. It scared the hell out of me. Apparently, I've had abduction experiences since I was very young. I do have a rare blood type, Rh negative. 3% of the world have Rh negative blood.
Right.
Okay. Anyhow, and I've had a lot of experiences in my life. And I know this sounds crazy to people, and I understand, but listen, I've talked to a number of abductees, okay, and they've all told me basically the same story. And I'm going to tell you what I remember from regression. If you like, I'll give you a copy of the tape next time I see you. Anyhow, I remember the night they took Devin and I, the craft wasn't in front of us. It was behind those trees to the other side of us. They come out, there was 5 of them. They took Devin, 3 of them, because I guess Devin was so big, were with Devin. They led him up into this craft. 2 were with me. As I walked up the ramp to get into it, I remember it sounded like I was walking on wood, but it wasn't wood. It didn't give like wood, but it sounded like wood. And I managed to turn my head to the left like this real slowly, and I touched the side of the craft, which was smooth but warm, and I could see it looked like laminate layers. When you walk into it, you see a wall, but it's round like this. You have to make a right and go up these narrow steps up into the upper section. When I did, Devin was sitting there on like a built-in, I guess it was like a bench into the wall, and there was 2 seats and a table right in the middle. And they had me undress and lay on this table. And I remember looking up, and I could see the ground, which is really weird. Now I'm looking up, there's this big round circle above me, and I could see the ground below me receding away. They told me they were angry with me for bringing somebody. I shouldn't have brought anybody, and not to do it again. Now, you and I, when we sit and we talk, Gwen,
Yeah.
there's nonverbal communication. I can tell by your posture, the way you look, the way you react to, like even now, shaking your head. Okay. That's nonverbal communication. But when we do this with each other, you get information from me as well. And I get information from you, correct?
Absolutely.
These creatures they can communicate verbally if they choose to with us, but I hate to use the word telepathy. It's beyond telepathy. It's a mind to mind, but it's not quite. Anyhow, when they looked into my mind, I could see glimpses of their mind.
Oh my.
And what I saw was horrifying. I admire Whitley Strieber, but he has a misconception. These are benevolent creatures. They are not. They are here for their own agenda, period. They told me that their civilization is 5 million years older than ours. 5 million years older than ours. They said they are our God. That our race is doomed. They're taking us and they're using us for genetic purposes to breed a mixed race, hybrids. They told me also, and again, look, I'm sane as a judge, okay? I better not use that because there's a lot of insane judges. But look, I got no reason to lie about none of this stuff. I'm putting this out here right now. I know after this show's over, you're going to be getting all kind of crazy stuff. But anyhow, they told me that I was one of the chosen, not the chosen, one of the chosen, one of the good army. I don't know what that means. They said the next time they asked me, do you want to go with us? But you can't come back. I had 3 kids at that point, a
Right.
baby, 2 other ones. I didn't want to go anywhere. Not then. I don't even want to go now. I mean, if my wife passes away, then I'll go. You'll never see me again. But anyhow, it'll be a moot point. But they said if next time we asked you, you have no choice. So my wife right now will tell you that she's afraid if I go by myself places, and I do a lot, because I really just don't want to take anybody, because I don't want to put anybody else at risk, for one thing,
Right.
okay, or compromise my investigation. Anyhow, so they returned us that night. What they did to me, I'm not sure. All I remember is that I felt weak. They said something about they saved my life with something with my blood, something with my blood. They were mad at me for bringing Devin. Okay. But these creatures aren't here for our benefit. Okay. And they're not the only race. They have something. I sense something above them. I think they're pawns. If you know what how ants are, they have an hierarchy, or bees, they have an hierarchy. They have a queen, workers, drones, that kind of stuff.
Yes. I raised
sense
these.
right. I think there's something above them, and I think that mantis-like creature some people report that's above them, but there's something above that too. Okay, they've been here. I mean, Carl Sagan, I admired his work. Carl Sagan said the distances are so vast they would take them millions of years to get here at the speed of light. I got news for you. They've already made the trip. Neil deGrasse Tyson, who I also admire, says too vast distances. They made the trip. They've been here.
Yeah.
They're in our solar system somewhere. My guess is on the moon or Mars or someplace like that, or in the asteroid belt. But anyhow, but I've had ongoing abduction and missing time throughout my whole life. Okay, I'm not a heavy drinker. I don't do that. I don't smoke cigarettes. You know, at the most I drink is I'll have a one drink with dinner, like a glass of wine. That's it.
Right.
Like I said, the only drugs I take are for my cancer, which I'm still partially fighting. Okay, and for pain, because I have pain every day, but I work through it. Now, I got another call from Stan that there was a woman in a place called Low Hill, PA, which is not too far from this whole area. She said she was an abductee and she wanted to talk to us. I had never met this woman in my life. Okay, so Devin and I drive down. It's summertime. We go there, and I stayed in my Jeep for a second to get paperwork. I have a briefcase I carry at times with my paperwork, because there's a certain form I fill out about the investigation and what time, et cetera, who I talked to, all that stuff, you know. So Devin got out and started talking to her. Now, her husband didn't want to even talk to us because, you know, he thought his wife was nuts, and I guess, but I don't know, or he didn't want to get involved. So Devin gets out and talking to her. She's all smiling and stuff. The minute I stepped out, she got a good look at me. She blanched, her face turned white. She didn't want to talk to us then. Finally, Devin convinced her to talk to us. And so I asked her at point blank, I says, so what's wrong? She said, I've seen you before. I says, where, in the store or what? She goes, no, you were with them. I said, what do you mean I was with them? She said, you were helping them and they took me. You were calming me. I never met this woman in my life, but the details she gave me about the interior of the ship matched exactly what I remember. I remember the light in the craft was like a purplish light, sort of purplish, like not dark, but purplish. The smell was reminiscent of wet cardboard. That's what I smelled, and a mixture of cinnamon, which is kind of hard to explain. The craft itself on the inside was sparse, but everything looked like organic, like it was built into everything, even the seats. The seats were so tiny, I think no bigger than a 7 or 8 year old kid could sit in these seats. And there were like a control panel on either of the seats. And there was something round behind the seats, looked like I don't know what you call it, like an upside down bottle, but it was silver right behind the seat. And the equipment came from the left-hand side of the table that I was on, and it was like it had different kind of instruments on it. That's all I remember about that, and that's it. They said I wouldn't feel any pain, but I didn't feel any pain or anything. But so anyhow, she told me this, and she told me the exact same things that I remember. So I know she's telling the truth. But my question is, I don't remember. I don't know anything about this. She never met me in my life. I never met her before. She had no reason to lie. Her story was very credible. Okay. So what's the deal? These kind of things have happened to me all throughout my life. When I was in PASU, they used to say that things happen wherever I went. Generally, they did. And they did. Not all the time, but about 50% of the time, something always seemed to happen wherever I was at. I don't know whether I'm just lucky or maybe because I look. You're not going to see anything unless you get out there and look. I know you, Gwen, you go out there all the time and do crazy stuff out in the woods. I know that. But too many people they're hooked on their cameras or TV shows or the mundane things of life, and they don't want to get interested. A lot of people simply don't want to know because it scares them.
Right.
They're not used to anything that changes the status quo in their lives. Okay.
Right.
I've seen ghosts. I saw a demon once. Okay. In my home. We have 3 ghosts that live in this house right now. 3 ghosts that every member of this family has seen.
I have
one
4.
hung. Yeah, there was one that hung himself up the top of the steps, which I actually walked through about 2 weeks ago.
Oh my God.
Black mass at top. I just walked through it. And it doesn't bother me because I know I can scare them. I can chase them out. I know how to do it. I actually did a removal like that for a woman named Sharon Sosneck up in Crescent Heights of all places. Who also was a Bigfoot. It was her and her mother, an 8-foot tall one they saw. Ron Howes lived close to there too, by the way. A friend of mine. You know who Ron is, the Bigfoot bike.
Yeah.
So we talked about it and stuff. But anyhow, so he knows these people. I know. But I actually removed a ghost from her house that was terrorizing her. So I know how to do that stuff. Actually, years ago, I met Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Yeah.
I also met Hans Holzer up at California State Teachers College way back in the day. He's dead now. He was the world's leading parapsychologist at the time.
Yep. Yep.
Told me, I know I'm jumping around a little bit about this, but I don't know how much time you're going to give me. But he told me that most hauntings he investigated, the hauntings don't last more than 400 years, and then they transition on. Change frequency is what I call it. They change and move on. But here's the thing: I tell people that use these spirit boxes and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Be careful, and I'll tell you why. Once a spirit, even if it's a benevolent spirit, once they know that they can communicate with you, now you got a friend for life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and sometimes ghosts that appear to you of a dead loved one, for instance. Just so you know, demons feed on negative emotions. Okay. Ed and Lorraine told me that. Okay. They feed on negative emotions. Now, say for instance, you lost the person you love the most. That would be your husband, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Say in 6 months, he reappears to you and you see him, you're happy, but what are you more?
Scary.
You're sad, right?
Yeah.
You're scared and you're sad. What type of emotions?
Negative.
They feed on negative emotions. So sometimes you got to be careful because it's not your loved one. There's something manifests themselves as negative. You heard of the shadow people.
Yes.
Same thing.
I've had an encounter with a shadow person.
Right. Well, I haven't had an encounter with a shadow person. Well, unless you count that black thing I walked through. I did see a demon once. That scared me.
Oh my gosh.
I'll tell you the story. When I was a kid, I had a Ouija board. All the kids back then wanted a Ouija board. I was 12 years old. Right. Well, I got news for you. It is a gateway. So one day I was asking the Ouija board, how many ghosts are in the house? It said 7. There's exactly 7 of us in our family. My mom and dad, who are both gone now, and my brothers and sisters and I. There's 7 of us. So, but I played with it for a while and this and that, blah, blah, blah. Then I moved away. I went to Pittsburgh. I came back to visit my mom, and my dad passed away, and helped take care of my mother. So, but we're sitting downstairs one day, the whole family. It's summertime. And so my family's telling me about there's something upstairs that keeps making the ceiling bounce and jumping up and down. And just about now I had a glass of water sitting to my left, and there was a stand on my right side. And I'm like, come on, man. I think it's one of my brothers upstairs playing a game on me.
Right.
So I said, there's nothing up there. When I said that glass of water lifted up in front of me, walked like this in front of me, and sat down right next to me without spilling a drop.
Oh my God.
I ran upstairs and I challenged I said, whatever's up here, you fight me. Big mistake.
Oh my gosh.
Mistake. Anyhow, moving along, my wife has a child, Heather. Heather's 4 pounds 9 ounces at birth, So we couldn't bring her home at first. She was a preemie.
Right.
So we brought her home when she went to 5 pounds and I think 4 ounces. So she went upstairs and we had the bedroom upstairs. I'm working at Green Tree up in my Mount Lebanon for Marion Manor. And I came home that morning and I hear my baby crying. Our bed's pretty tall. It's maybe 2.5 feet tall or 3 feet tall, I guess, on the side. Now, a newborn, if a newborn would fall from that height, what would happen to it?
To get injured.
Break a lot of bones, right?
Absolutely.
Now, my wife used to wrap the baby in like a miniature sleeping bag and put her in bed with her while I was away. So I go up, no baby. I can't see. I hear the baby crying. I said to my wife, "Where's Heather?" She was here. There was the sleeping bag that she made, no baby in it.
Oh my
So
God.
we're looking for the baby. It's up underneath the bed in a corner. They couldn't have crawled there. They don't crawl. A newborn, no injuries to it. I took it to the doctors, no new. I was ready to kick my wife's rear. Anyhow,
Oh my gosh.
so things started happening after that. So I said, we're not going to sleep upstairs and tell you what's going on. So we went downstairs and we were my mom was down there. She was in bad shape before she died. She had really bad shape. So she was sleeping on this bed over here and we had a pull-out bed. And I'm laying there and my wife's laying on the bed next to me in the pull-out bed. And I felt, this is about 2 o'clock in the morning, I felt a weight on my chest. And I'm thinking it's her hand. So I went to move and it couldn't move. I couldn't open my eyes. I'm wide awake. It wasn't that sleep paralysis thing either. I'm wide awake.
Right.
Anybody who knows me knows I jump up like that. I managed to force my eyes open. And I looked up and I saw this black mass over top of me with this huge head, looked like a giant wolf's head with fangs and red eyes glowing at me. I'm trying to scream. And finally I went and I screamed. "Ah!" And when I did, it laughed at me and vanished. So I got a little shook up about that. So I called a priest.
Too.
Yeah. I called a priest from St. Thomas Aquinas Church in California to come down to bless the house. And he got scared because things started happening when he was going around room to room. When he stopped at that middle room upstairs and went to that corner, there was a cold spot. It was 85 degrees outside in that middle room. You could see your breath. Sucks the energy out. So I called another friend of mine. They called her Chicky. She's a psychic. And I don't know if you believe in psychics, but I kind of do, the real ones.
Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't say anything about anything other than there was something going on in the house. I didn't tell her rooms or nothing. So she's walking room to room to room. And finally, she comes upstairs and she says, "It's here. It's in the corner. It doesn't like children." She pointed to exactly the kids. So she got the house. She used sage and Lord's Prayer and stuff. And whatever it was gone. So, yeah. So that's just some of the things. Seeing orbs, seeing ghosts, the whole 9 yards. Okay. When I was 12 years old delivering newspapers, I saw a Black Panther. Not just me, but the other newspaper boys that were with me. And that was outside of Cole Center. Okay. So these things, look, believe what you will. You know, these things do exist, but you got to get out there and try to solve them. Okay. People were saying there's such thing as a chupacabra, but remember that woman down, I think it was in Texas, actually got a dead one.
Yep.
It was a mixture. They said it was the thing was like a mixture between a wolf and a coyote or something like that. It didn't look like either one though.
No.
So these things do exist. Anyhow, so I pretty much hit all the gamut tonight. Now I know you got to have some questions.
Oh my gosh. There have been so many things running through my mind. Talking to you about the alien stuff and the UFOs brought me back to Carter Bouchot that I had on here maybe a month or two ago. Carter and I have become very good friends, and he wrote a book, Baptized by Abduction, which I immediately purchased because I had a very strange dream a year or so ago that I woke up in the morning and went, for lack of better wording, I was like, I don't know what the fuck that was. Like, what happened? Like, because it was the weirdest dream ever. And it was about some gray alien standing around my bed. And so it brought back a lot of memories from when I was younger, like in my 20s. where things happened to me that I couldn't explain, like weird things. And so you talking about these and just I was like, oh my gosh, like it makes me now I really want to have a regression session because yeah.
Well, you should, but you listen, go to a reputable one. But you know how you tell
Let's
the
try to
difference?
find one. I don't know even what I'm looking,
Well,
anybody
here's
can
the
say
thing.
they can do it. So it's
You
like,
can do it, but you got to be careful because sometimes some of these regressionists will lead you into
right,
saying things that never really happen.
right,
So all the ones I talk to, they let me speak.
right,
Tell us what's going on, that kind of thing. They don't lead you, okay, because they can implant things and you never happen.
right.
But I want to tell you something. Whitley Strieber talked about his encounter in his book Communion. He
Yeah.
talked about seeing giant owls. Okay, you know what a screen memory is?
Yes.
Okay, what they do sometimes, they'll take and make so that they don't frighten you to death. Okay, they'll do something to. They don't change shape. I know people say they can change shape. No, they don't change shape. What they do, they can telepathically implant something in your mind to make them see something that's not really there, but it's them. Okay, so it makes them look like something you're familiar with. So something you can grasp in reality, something what's not going to scare you. For instance, you might, if you like cats a lot, they might let you see a giant kitty, okay,
Mhm.
or a dog or something you're familiar, but talks, okay. So screen memories are a big thing. And like I said, I know Whitley, I respect him immensely and everything else, but he thinks they're benevolent here to help us. No, they're here to help themselves. Okay, they're here to help themselves.
Which
There was
is
a village, I believe, in Alaska, and I can't remember exactly. It was an Inuit village, and
mhm.
the Mounties used to go up there, I guess, once in a while and check on them. A whole village disappeared. Their food was still on the table, their weapons were outside, their animals were gone, and the graves were empty. They were never found again. Why? The only reason you would take something out of a grave is for the DNA.
Right.
Okay. What happened to the Mayan civilization?
They were just
Completely
gone one day.
right. Now, if you know anything, I can go into this. You know who the Anunnaki is?
I do.
Eight Anunnaki kings. I think they ruled for 240 or 250,000 years, which
Yes.
tells me they lived a very long time. Okay, they're in the Mahabharata, in the Hindu Vedas. They talk about fights between different gods,
Yes.
reptilians, Greys, Nordiques, whatever. Okay, so these things have been here for a long time. On the cliff faces in Australia, the Aborigines drew what they saw.
Yes.
What they drew were renditions of what we call the Greys. The Native Americans out west did the same thing. They call them the Star People. The Dogon in Africa, okay, they do that. They emulate with the helmets and stuff, okay.
Mhm.
And other races bind their heads up to make them look the same. The Pharaohs, for crying out loud, they think that Nefertiti and what was it? The other one were actually hybrids. In
Mhm.
China, one of the great leaders was supposedly a descendant from the gods.
Yep.
Then you hear stories about Ezekiel and the fiery chariot being taken up to heaven. And what he saw, if there was a great palace with lights and everything else, okay? Look, I believe in a creator, okay? And I'm not trying to offend any religion, okay, whatsoever, okay? In every religion, there's gods and goddesses or whatever. There's a pantheon of gods and all this kind of stuff. I believe in one creator, okay? One, okay? So powerful that he made everything, not just this universe, but multiverses and everything else, okay, and alternate universes, okay? So, but I believe that, and I know this is going to get me in trouble with Darwinism, but I believe that we're not so much descended evolutionarily from apes, but that our DNA was modified by an
Mhm.
alien race
Yes.
because we progressed too fast in evolution to do that.
You can
Simple as
come
that.
in. Yeah. You can come in. Hi.
How does like this thing works? I don't understand it.
Oh, the blind.
Yeah.
1 second. You just pull these cords here. You can just pull them up. You hold it all the
You
way
need
to
to
the
kind of-
left.
You need to kind of like we have. You just lift them up.
I tried everything and it doesn't work.
Okay. I'll be right over. We have a foreign exchange student here from Germany. Today is her second day with us. Yeah, yeah. So
Well, I have my wife. My wife just walked in. She's listening to this right now. You want to meet her? She's right here watching. Anyhow, so yeah, she's watching me. But anyhow, but the thing is this. Okay, look, there's a lot of things going on. Okay, I could
Right.
go on and on and on, talk about history and everything else. I mean, I'm a student of history as well. Okay, there was a case in 15th century Japan where a craft came up out of the water and a female came out of it. And the Japan, the people in Japan at the time were a feudal people, which means they were warlike. They
Right.
didn't try to harm her, but she had strange designs on the side of her craft. Look it up. It's there. Okay.
oh wow.
Then we have cases I just watched today of USOs traveling at Mach speeds under the water. Okay, which tells me scientifically that these craft have the ability to take and generate some type of field around it so that they don't have any friction. So they can travel at any speed they can, like they do in the atmosphere. They're actually multi transitional vehicles. They can travel in space, in the air, and underwater.
Right.
There's pictures of UFOs going inside of live volcanoes, for crying out loud. Okay.
Mhm.
There's a picture of a craft supposedly near the sun drawing plasma from the sun.
Oh my gosh.
And then of course, then I'm going to tell you about this. I'll tell you this. The moon. When we sent the lander to the moon, and when the astronauts came back and got on board the main craft and was heading back there, they ejected the lander. It hit the moon and rang like a bell, which tells you the moon is hollow.
Mm-hmm.
For 8 hours it rang.
Oh my gosh.
So my question is this. Now, in Native American history, they talk about, in other cultures, ancient cultures, they talk about there was no moon at one time.
Right.
Okay. Now the moon controls our seasons and our tides, right?
Yes.
It's as close as it's going to get. And the funny part about it actually, when you see an eclipse, it actually measures exactly against the sun's diameter to create an eclipse, does it not? Perfect.
It does.
The same side always faces us, even though it rotates, but all it's like this, but it never rotates this way, just around like this. Okay.
Right.
I think it might be an artificial satellite. It's 248,000 miles away. Okay. I think it's an artificial satellite. I think if I were an alien race and I want, look, let me just call it like it is. Human beings are violent people.
We
We're
are.
very violent. All throughout history, we've had wars. We've killed each other. We're the only species on the planet that kills each other for nothing other than greed or whatever territory that's been here for 4 billion years. Okay.
Yep.
So if I'm an alien race and I'm not very big, but I'm technologically advanced, but I want to do reconnoiter on the planet, but I don't want to go down here except to visit and come back to someplace safe. I'm going to stay as far away from them as I can, but still watch them.
Right.
Why not the moon?
Right.
Why not the moon? Travis Walton talks about stuff like that too. Okay.
I
What
have
I remember
Travis Walton.
when I was with Pashu, Paramount Pictures contacted Pashu and Stan Gordon. They asked us to endorse the movie Fire in the Sky,
Yes.
and we agreed to do so with the provision that we were allowed to take and do a display in the movie theater at Monroeville on a Thursday, an early review. When I went up there, I took all the pictures I had and I put them up there to show. And when I was there, people were offering me up to $5,000 a piece for my pictures, and I wouldn't part with them. You know why? Because I can't make another UFO appear to take pictures of. That's why.
Right.
Okay. Okay. So they'll go to my wife when I'm dead. Okay. She can do with them what she wants. But the point is, she's going to put me. She told me when I die, she's going to cremate me and put me in a pickle jar anyhow. So it doesn't matter. So, but I got a good woman. But anyhow, listen. I know you're dying to ask me some things. Please do so. And then I'm going to let you go for this evening because it's almost 9:00.
Oh yeah. 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 Oh, we've covered so much. Let me see here. I know Scott Walker had a question here about your Mothman. What are the chances the Mothman creature is a moth that mutated from radioactive waste from a normal moth, or is it somebody who transforms, or maybe that was bitten by one?
Well, anything's possible. I don't rule anything out until I have facts. Again, I deal with facts. I
Me
did
too.
want to tell you one thing though. My wife did see one moth up there. That was the Mothman. We saw one moth. She saw it actually. A little tiny white one, she said just now. But but no, I think it's possible. Anything's possible. I mean, they have creatures in the sea. You know, before the EPA got involved and the international community, people were dumping radioactive waste into the oceans.
Oh,
well,
absolutely.
it mutates things. Okay, it mutates things. It kills things and stuff. And we're discovering new things every day in the ocean. Okay, they still think the megalodon's still alive, the giant shark. I'll tell you about that real quick. During the Second World War, the German U-boats used to go on patrol for months. Okay. And they'd have another U-boat come up and give them fuel and food and their mail. Well, they showed a picture of two U-boats almost side by side, and between them was an 8-foot tall fin of a shark going between the two U-boats.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah. And of course, the giant squid, they didn't believe it existed. Okay. But the giant squid was proven to exist.
Right.
Okay. The Kraken. The Loch Ness Monster. There's not just a monster in Loch Ness, but they have the Lake Champlain Monster Champion. They have other ones. Macaulay Mbembe in Africa. Okay. There's, look, you've heard of the coelacanth?
Yes.
That's supposed to be extinct for 65 million years. They found 7 or 8 of them alive so far off the coast of Madagascar and Africa. Okay. They're supposed to be extinct. It's a 5-foot long armored fish. Every day we discover new species. They said the Tasmanian tiger is supposed to be extinct. Pictures have been taken recently of them again. Okay. Human beings are trying to bring back the woolly mammoth from DNA they found from frozen mammoths, which were quick frozen. So anything's possible. I don't rule anything out. But again, bottom line, Gwen, is I deal in facts.
Me too.
The facts will take me where I need to go. But I'll be honest with you. You could be on an investigation. I was on an investigation, as I said, in McMurray for a year before I had results. I was lucky. Persistence paid that off. The other sightings I had were pretty much luck by others. There were 42 people that saw that Bigfoot up on California High School Hill before I even got there.
Right.
Okay. Luck. But you got to put in the work, and you may never see anything. But if you don't get out there and do something, put boots on the ground,
you're certainly never going to see anything.
Anybody can sit on a group and hypothesize or guess or whatever you want to do it, supposize or whatever about what's out there. But unless you get out there and see for yourself, you're not going to know. You may never know, but it's like anything else. If you don't try, there you go.
You're never going to know.
Right. Well, listen, I'm going to let you go for now. It's 9 o'clock.
Please tell me.
I'll come back. Yeah, I'll come back.
I feel like this is just scratching the surface.
It is. Over 5,000 cases worth. That's why.
Yeah.
I got a lot more to talk about. My wife is here. She's ready to go to bed, and I am tired myself. I'm an old guy. We need our sleep, our beauty sleep.
We will have to connect, though, so I can come out there because I want to come see.
Well, Doug Lockhart invited me to go to a camp out sometime in September there's a place up by Laurel Caverns, not far from it. There's Bigfoot sightings, and I'm going to probably go up there in September. And then Linda Sigmund invited me to come down sometime also in September or in the fall to down her place in Parkersburg, West Virginia for an investigation. I also made an offer to Brian King Sharp 3 times to come down to his property to an investigation, but he hasn't got back to me. And I'm an admin in his group. Yeah, I know. Okay, we'll talk privately, by the way.
We will.
I'm going to let you go for now, and you have a good evening. I'm glad to have me on here, and I'll come back. Just let me know when. Oh,
absolutely. Oh my gosh. Everybody, thank you for watching. It's been an absolutely amazing show tonight. And like I said, we've only scratched the surface of this conversation. So we're going to be back. We're going to be back on here talking. Everybody have a good night. Enjoy your Friday.
This has been a CARC Universal production.